highs are getting warmer. The only thing that stops you from getting in the low 80s right now is cloud cover or rain, and there's just not a lot of that in the forecast. Now, Saturday, this front to the west makes a run at us. It doesn't really get in here. It kind of falls apart on Sunday, though Sunday I do think we'll see some pop-up showers and storms. Our severe weather risk is really confined to areas off to the west. You'll see on day 3, we call it, which is Saturday, some of the yellow, which is the low risk, kind of moves into the western Carolinas. Honestly, I don't really buy that right now because of the front kind of falling apart and kind of as it moves in, just kind of petering out, if you will. And I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. I'll show you the short range future cast. We'll go through tonight into tomorrow. If it loads, it's super slow to load tonight, but there's the temperatures. You'll see the warm up tomorrow. Here comes some clouds in the morning. We saw that this morning, some fog and drizzle. By the afternoon, I could see a 20% chance of a shower tomorrow. We'll go into Saturday, but you can see nothing really getting in here. I mean, this front to the west kind of falls apart. You see it kind of fizzle as it moves in, so I don't expect anything to really be an issue. Now, next week might be a different story. We're going to see record heat for Tuesday and Wednesday next week, so that warm southwest wind continues. You can see the high pressure building back in for Tuesday, Wednesday, but look at this front to the west next week. I'll pause it right there. That front sets up Wednesday well to our west. If it arrives in the middle of the day, we could have problems. Right now, it looks like it moves in early Thursday morning. And with that early Thursday morning arrival, that should just make it good old-fashioned rain, not widespread showers and storms, because that's the coolest part of the day. But today's only Thursday. It's a week from today. If this front should slow down and be in the heating of the day on Wednesday, or speed up, slow down, and be in the heating of the day Thursday, or speed up and come into the heating of the day on Wednesday, so either Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, then all bets are off. You could see some strong or severe storms, but certainly a big pattern changer coming with this. This will cool everything down, and behind it, we're going to see temperatures much, much cooler, likely in the 50s and 60s for highs, as opposed to the 70s and low 80s that we're going to see for most of the next 6 to 7 days. And then it stays pretty cool going into next weekend with a chance of some showers. Allergy sufferers, I apologize. This is probably the worst allergies you're going to have, and they're all coming at you right quick. I mean, it's not like we're easing into the pollen season. Tree pollen is off the charts right now, and it's going to stay very hot because of the lack of rain, southwest winds, everything you need to just drive those pollen levels through the roof. And the southwest winds usher in pollen from Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Florida. We're going to have days and days of that southwest flow. So that will easily blow in a bunch of that pollen. Look at the drop in temperatures, though, once we get that front next week. So we're not quite done with the cool weather. Just, we're going to have an extended period of warm weather. Doesn't mean we're not going to see another cool down. Rainfall-wise, drought monitor came out today. It was not great. The drought monitor, which Tim and I will talk about here coming up, we need rain. All the heavy rain is off to the east or west of us, not really over us. Doesn't really set the stage for anything decent for us. This weekend, don't forget, this is the weekend we set our clocks ahead 1 hour. We go back to daylight saving time. Sunday morning sunrise, 7:43 a.m., and that sunset coming up at 7:25. Here's your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. We'll let you look at this warm 7-day period. The 7th day, Thursday, is when we start to see some big time changes. That cold front's either coming through late Wednesday or early Thursday right now, but stay tuned. The timing could adjust. As I mentioned, we're 7 days out from that front. Could speed up or slow down, and that could change that front to some stronger storms. The 10-day forecast shows just how warm it's going to be through Wednesday, and also how much cooler it's going to be late next week, with highs in the 50s and 60s, morning lows back into the 40s. So a warm stretch of weather. We'll talk about May weather in March. We'll talk about the drought and the rest of the weather stories coming up in 2 minutes with Tim Buckley from WFMY. So stick around and stay right there. Welcome back, everybody. Tim Buckley, as always, joins me from WFMY, our tag team here on Live Weather Impact. Tim, warm day today. It felt today, I mean, it's been warm. We've had some warm days, Tim, but for whatever reason today really felt almost hot down here. I went out to my car to get my suit, and I got out of the car, and I had that first summer like car feel where you open the car and it's like, wow, it's like an oven in here. Today definitely felt a little different, and I think the humidity and the fact that we only cooled into the 50s last night played in it, but we're kind of in it now. This is definitely going to be one of the warmer stretches we've seen in March in a long time.
It really is, and I'm not sure how to quantify that. We'll have to kind of be creative with our searching, but just to kind of see, in the month of March, have you had a stretch where it basically doesn't get below, 50, below 55 for a while, even below 60 for a while? That could be the case going through some of this warm-up, because you're right. I was doing the forecast tonight, and, I preview most of my graphics, but the 12-hour came up, and I'm just looking at that hour by hour, thinking, is it really going to be 63 at midnight? And, I think it is going to be that. It's that kind of warmth, right? And so this is going to be still increasing. If you think it's humid now, just wait a couple days, because those dew points are going to shoot up into the 60s, and some people might break. They might even crank that AC or make sure it's working, I'd say.
Yeah, I was saying that tonight, and what really gets me I'm one of those holdout dads. Like, I don't touch the thermostat until as late as we can, right? Like, I try to get to Memorial Day, but what really will get to me is the overnight lows that you just mentioned. Some of these lows down our way, especially, might be 4 or 5 degrees above our average high for this time of year, and it might be kind of humid.
Right.
And so, to me, I'm okay with it warm days, but when you can't cool your house down at night, that's when it's like, okay, maybe time to turn the AC on, right? And I think that's going to happen just because the longevity of this heat wave for us. A couple records, Tim. I'll just show ours real quick. I have us breaking 3 records during this. Tomorrow, I'm going 82 down here. Our record's only 80, which is pretty warm, but that record was only set a couple years ago, back in 2022. Tuesday, I'm going mid-80s. Our record's 82, and on Wednesday, I'm going 86. And those are always tough ones, Tim, because that's ahead of a pretty strong front next week. And you know how it is. You get that cold front. Sometimes that flow ahead of the front can really warm you up as dramatically as the cool down is behind it. So would I be shocked if somebody to my south got in the upper 80s near 90 next week? It could be possible. I don't think I would be crazy to say like Columbia or somebody could get close to that next week.
I agree with you. Just kind of a general forecasting thing is like that last day of the warm-up before the cold front, usually your warmest day. And usually underestimated by the models too. And so I would expect that Wednesday really is going to blow torch. And even up this way, we could get up to 83, 84. I'm a little bummed because when we do these things, I like to break a couple records. We're at 86 for our record next Wednesday, so I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's up there.
Yeah, I don't know why either, but for some reason it's 86 next Wednesday. But in any case, tomorrow should be a shoo-in for us. That's one of the cooler records on the board for March. We're going to get rid of that 78 pretty easily for tomorrow. And I'll go through next week bit by bit, but I was already eyeballing Wednesday, and unfortunately it looks like we're not going to make do of that. 1967 is the year for us at 86 next week. So we'll see. 93 is our warmest March temperature on the 30th.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yours is so much higher than Charlotte's. I wonder if you had some kind of west wind, kind of downslope up your way or something weird like that, that kind of blow towards you a little bit. That's an interesting setup. The fact that you're normally we're kind of, you look at the highs when people watch ours, you can tell the difference in latitude between our two markets by looking at the records. Just that little bit of difference is a big deal. Want to talk about the drought because it is Thursday. We'd be remiss, probably feel like we're beating a dead horse here, but unfortunately it is important. We got the drought monitor today, Tim, and for North Carolina, I guess this is kind of what I expected. If you want to nitpick some of the numbers, there was some minor reduction, but it was kind of like nothing. We just kind of treaded water. For us down our way, South Carolina, there was some significant impacts that were reduced in the Midlands. Columbia actually is back down to abnormally dry. But other than that, it really wasn't a big change.
Not a big change. There were some minor improvements. So if you're in Randolph County, Montgomery, Moore, those areas in North Carolina, you decreased by a category. So, it's something. It's not a major something. And kind of interesting how you can go from the extreme drought that you have there in your neck of the woods around Union County and then just, a skip over to Montgomery and you're 2 categories better. So it's kind of interesting how that all works. But I think if anything, Brad, we can probably say it's stabilized a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not getting a lot worse necessarily. And maybe still some optimism going forward that we might be getting into more of a persistent wet weather pattern. But that's just hoping at this point. That you can't cash that in until it actually happens. But the State Climate Office in that graphic they put out every week, they did mention a couple of little qualifiers here. They said, you can cherry pick some stuff. The only 15% of the topsoil moisture is short or very short, which is down from 40% on February 1st. But I also say some of the pastures are in very poor condition, about 50% of those. Hickory had its 9th driest February on record. But Siler City, they had voluntary water conservation, easy for me to say, before, and they're not doing that anymore because their reservoirs are back above 70% of capacity. So town by town is a little different. I think some of the stream flows, some of the soil moisture is a little better, but still that long-term deficit, like we keep talking about, we're still in debt when it comes to that. We need to pay that down over the long term.
Yeah, I think your term is great, stabilize. We actually use it, I think, in our broadcast today because that's a good way to look at it. Things haven't gotten worse. They didn't get a whole lot better. They kind of stabilized. I think the one wild card, Tim, and this will be interesting, and I think we'll notice a lot in the next week because of also the warmth, everything's going to start growing. Things are greening up super quick.
Sure.
And so I think there's another moisture sink now thrown into this. We got high evaporation rates, but now we have plants that are going to be using this moisture that's in the soil. So I'm kind of curious how the impacts will unfold if we don't see significant rain after this green up, because now you've got thirsty lawns and bushes and trees that are going to be looking for water, and how that's going to impact the drought going forward, because those are impacts that we're going to be able to measure a little bit better going forward, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. And even just something quite as simple as the sun angle keeps on getting higher, and it's a little bit more impactful on drying out that topsoil as well. So all of those are factors. And, like we said, what are you forecasting, like 84 next week or 85 for some folks? I mean, that's going to have a short-term impact for sure.
Yeah, something else I wanted to bring up with the drought, it kind of leads topical. We had a bunch of smoke down our way, Tim. I don't know if you guys smelled or saw any of the haze today, but it was weird. Like around 5 o'clock, all of a sudden it got super hazy here, and I had to track it back to a wildfire that was down in Chester, South Carolina. There was a controlled burn down there that ended up pushing some smoke up here. But I think that's something else we're going to see in the next couple of days. Seems like there's a lot of prescribed burns going on by these land managers. I don't know if you guys had some of that up their way or if you're seeing some smoke, but we had a note just put in our teams that there might be a wildfire up in Caldwell County. So that's another thing we're going to have to keep an eye on as we get into this, what we call the secondary fire season here in the spring.
And that's something that we've avoided mostly out of good luck, I'd say. The fact that we haven't had too many wildfires through the dry winter, that's mostly just been, lucky. But to hear that, not super surprising. But yeah, it seems like there might be a big concern over there in Caldwell County near Oak Hill. So we'll see what we learn more about that. In any case, this is the time of year that a lot of those prescribed burns do start to happen a little bit more. So if you see that smoke, that can really ruin the air quality a little bit for a couple of hours, depending on the wind direction. The wind direction right now, mostly over the next several days, is going to be southwest. So anything south and west of you could be impacting the air in the sky with that smoke.
Yeah, and that leads us, the other thing that comes in on that southwest wind, Tim, is the pollen. We got a note from the state air quality department about that they think there might be record pollen levels this week. I've noticed locally, at least the folks that collect pollen here, Charlotte Asthma and Allergy, they're already at the very high pollen count, and things have just started. What are your pollen counts like up there, and are you noticing that allergies becoming a big issue right now?
Yeah, I'm noticing it personally, and today just not feeling super great myself. Maybe the first day of the year that I'm kind of feeling that, and everyone's a little bit different. But our report came in still in the high category, about 606 grains per cubic meter in the air. Mostly noting still some cedar pollen for our area, some elms, some maples, some cottonwoods also. But it is expected to go higher and just kind of stay there through the next couple of days. And I wouldn't expect any big improvements, And like you're showing here, it hits us hard and fast when it comes. It doesn't really waste any time. So we're going to be in this. It's always for the long haul. This is a couple months battle. It doesn't get better very quickly. So there's not really a light at the end of the tunnel just yet. You kind of have to wait till late April and early May.
Yeah, Brittany Van Voorhees, our colleague here, who you'll see tomorrow. She talked to the Carolina Asthma and Allergy, and we kind of theorized this among ourselves. Like, years past, Tim, we've had pretty mild winters, and we've seen really early starts to the pollen season. This year, obviously, we didn't have that because we had such a cold January and at least a start to February.
Right.
But what we theorized was it felt like everything happened at once, and that's what the doctor said as well. It's like normally some of the species of trees are staggered, like the first come out in February, then a few more in March, and then a bunch in April.
Yeah. She's
noticing all the species are producing pollen simultaneously. So that might be something that's different about this season.
It's like a pollen bomb of everything, not at once. Not what you would want to see. And something we've noticed, and there's data and graphs and charts that we've shown on here before. Typically, the trend has been for longer allergy season with climate change over the last couple of decades. Maybe not the case this year because we didn't start super early, but the intensity could be bad.
Yeah, normally down our way, our historical average peak is early April to mid-April, I would say. That's kind of when the pine pollen shows up. That's the visible pollen everybody sees. That's usually a later arrival. That's usually in April, early May, but that's not the one that causes the issues. I'm like you, Tim. I can tell when there's a certain pollen in the air, and I start feeling it's the oak pollen for me, and you start noticing that, and it's it's just so tough to shake. And the tough part is you want to spend time outside. I want to open my windows right now, but you get these high pollen levels, and that kind of kills your dreams of spending time outside or opening the windows right now. So, it's just a sign of the times, Tim. It's we know this happens every year, but when it happens all at once, and if you're an allergy sufferer, I think the one thing that Brittany was talking to the doctor about was the reason it was harder this year is normally because the species are staggered, it's a little easier to treat people because some people will take medicine for certain species early in the season. She was saying we're have to prescribe everything right now because it's all out at the same time. There's no time to wait. So.
Yeah. I feel so bad for those people. We all have those couple folks in our lives that we know that they just get hit so hard with allergies. And it's crazy how much it varies person to person. I don't have it that badly, but there's some people that really just get hammered every year. And so definitely feel bad. There's not much you can do other than take the pills.
Yeah, so today we got to talk about Severe Weather Awareness Week. We're still in. Today's topic is lightning, Tim. Before we, I don't know, Jeb, do we have that package? I want to make sure. Okay, we're going to have it here in a second. But, Tim, it's always interesting because we had our spring weather seminar with the Weather Service folks down at Greenville-Spartanburg today. And one of the things that was brought up about some of the threats, they had a really good presentation, which was interesting. I think since 1990 they showed the two number one killers in the western part of North Carolina were flooding and landslides. And it was really interesting because, we talk a lot about severe storms, tornadoes, all this stuff. But from a fatality standpoint, the number 1 and 2 killers in their region of the western part of the state were flooding and landslides. And I think we talk a lot about flooding, but their big thing is they're talking about that especially since Helene, we need to have a landslide awareness week. And I think that is going to happen this year. So stay tuned for that. I think the end of August, they're targeting for landslide awareness. But it just made me think about lightning today, because lightning is one of those things we kind of, I don't want to say we take for granted, but lightning is so weird because it's in every storm, Tim. It's not in just severe storms. And as we often see, people get hit by lightning before and after the storm because what do they do when it rains? They go inside. But before and after, they stay outside even if it's thunder and lightning. So what is kind of the rule of thumb you tell people with lightning? Because I think it's one of those things that you got to be ready for as we get into the severe weather season.
Well, the main thing I tell people, and I always mention this in a school visit because usually the teachers don't know either, or a lot of us don't really realize, if you hear thunder, there's always lightning.
Yes.
You cannot get thunder without lightning. And that is just, not something that most people know.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, it's just a thunderstorm, it's not flashing. Well, there are a couple of reasons. It could be daytime. A lot of times in daytime, it's not going to be very bright. A storm could be far away from you. But if you hear that thunder, there's absolutely lightning going on. It might be only in the clouds, it might not have come down to the ground yet, but it does mean you're at risk, which is why we say if you hear the thunder, go inside, roars, go indoors, like they say. But in any case, if you can hear that, just get inside right away. Now, there's always going to be the first lightning strike with a storm. And there's not always so much you can do about that. That's why it's good to, check up on the forecast. If you see those darkening clouds, that can be your clue. But if you hear that thunder, just get inside and you stay in there until it stops storming for real. Like, you got to wait until you stop hearing the thunder.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that leads us to Majestic Storm talking about lightning safety and lightning myths today in our Weather IQ.
When thunder roars, it's a phrase many of us learned as kids. But it's more than just a rhyme. It's Mother Nature's way of warning us that lightning is close enough to strike. Most people who get struck by lightning aren't hit during the most intense part of the storm, but rather just before or after it. That's because many people don't realize lightning can strike up to 25 miles from the storm itself. This means you should never wait for the rain to start before you decide to seek shelter, because technically you're already late getting to safety. The safest place during a thunderstorm is a large enclosed building with plumbing and wiring. Lightning will likely travel through the wiring or plumbing straight to the ground. During a thunderstorm, it's advised to avoid doing dishes, taking a shower, and even doing laundry, as metal plumbing and the water inside are both very good conductors of electricity. If you're outside when a storm is rolling through and no building is nearby, get in your car. Now let's bust some common lightning safety myths. A lightning victim is electrified. If you touch him, you'll risk being electrocuted. It is perfectly safe to touch a lightning victim in order to give them first aid. Be sure to call 911 for help. Heat lightning poses no threat. Many people incorrectly think that heat lightning is a specific type of lightning. It's just lightning from a thunderstorm that's too far away for any thunder to be heard. The same threats apply. No matter how old you are, the simple rule we learned as kids still hold true. When thunder roars, go indoors. With your Weather IQ, I'm meteorologist Majestic Storm.
Yeah, lightning safety is one of those things we kind of take for granted. And Tim, I'm glad you brought that up, because your comment about that at schools, I was at a Little League baseball game one time, and I heard the umpire not call the game because he said that his words came out of his mouth, Tim. I heard thunder, but I didn't see lightning, so we're safe. And I was like, what?
See?
It happened. Thanks, everybody. We're out of time.
Show on baseball weather.
Yeah, you're right. That's a whole nother show. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. We've got more news coming up on the Plus next.